And welcome back to another episode of the KU Tweets and News podcast. I am your host, Lane Stanberry.
Yep, and I'm your co-host, Parker Titus.
And wow, what a great game. Kansas, they had it all locked up. They were up 4 against Texas with a minute or so to go. You know, everything was looking pretty good. And then Tre Mitchell banks in a 3.
I'm gonna kill myself.
And we knew, KU was still up 1 at that point. So, you're kind of feeling like, okay, we're still up 1. We have the National Player of the Year. David McCormack is having a great game. Whatever. And they turn the ball over. And none other than Timmy Allen, who's going insane this game, makes a free throw jumper that we did not contest to make, and they go up. And then we have a shot to win the game if we get 2. DeJuan Harris drives, turns the ball over, and that's pretty much ball game from there. Texas wins 79-76. Let's talk about it. I really thought KU played pretty well. Texas made a lot of shots, and they only averaged 68 a game. So I was like, man, surely Texas won't get to 70. I know the Jayhawks defense is not the best, but I felt like we'd be able to defend down low, and DeJuan Harris would be able to lock up Marcus Carr enough to where they probably wouldn't score enough to beat us. They scored 79 points. That's inexcusable. I thought the lineups generally worked well. We were just a bit unlucky. There was a bank 3 that was 3 feet long. And speaking of, Timmy Allen, he was insane. And speaking of Timmy Allen, we have our first Super Saiyan of the game. Timmy Allen. Let me look at the last notes. Averaging 11.2 points per game, 6 rebounds, 2 assists. Against Kansas, 24 points, 11 of 17 shooting, 9 rebounds, and 1 assist, and 1 block. I believe that definitely qualifies, as you hear the Super Saiyan 1 theme song from Dragon Ball Z, as the first official KU Tweets and News podcast, Super Saiyan of the game, and he definitely will not be the last. I can't wait for Tanner Groves against Oklahoma. But
Super Saiyan of the game.
All right. Well, then, the Big 12 race just got a lot more interesting. Now we're only up 1 game on Baylor. But let's talk about Jalen Wilson, Parker. Jalen Wilson had a pretty good game.
Yeah, I think he may have been our best player, especially in the first half. He got off to a good start. He was rebounding really well. His stat line read 18 points, 11 rebounds, 2 assists. Still had 3 turnovers. I don't know at this point. Some games it seems like Jalen Wilson might be our best player. And then he goes and does something stupid, like turns the ball over or plays no defense.
Yeah,
something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
he plays really saggy defenses. He just plays off him. He looks just a step slow compared to the rest of the team.
Yeah, and I think he does a really good job of rebounding and pushing the pace for us. He's gotten really good at that, and he's shooting an insane amount in the Big 12. Play, so that's a good improvement.
And he's not, and at least he's starting to make threes. Like he's not a liability to where teams can just leave him on the line. Teams do have to guard him. Like, his percentage is only 25%, but in conference play he's shooting somewhere around 38%. So maybe teams, these are great coaches, maybe teams don't recognize that when you get into the NCAA tournament. They say, oh, this guy only shoots 25%. Well, let's look at conference play. He's around 35, which is something that you do have to guard.
Yeah. And I think as teams start to, we saw Texas literally face guard Ochai Agbaji the whole game. And as teams do that, we're going to have guys step up. And I thought Jalen Wilson did that. And also David McCormack did it when they got him the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the topic of David McCormack, I was so happy with what I saw. He was playing strong. He didn't commit a ton of turnovers, but there definitely were a few moments where he just gets the ball slapped out of his hands so often. And he gets mad when he does it. He needs to secure that ball. But for the most part, I thought he played really well. In the first half, he picked up 2 really quick fouls, including a garbage flop from Christian Bishop. Couldn't believe that call with all the hand checks Texas was getting and bumps Texas was getting away with. Could not believe that call. But we started letting the game get away from us. I believe we were down 6 or 7 at one point, and Self had to put him back in the game. And so I was really nervous. I was like, oh gosh, please don't let David pick up his third foul. 1, with how well he's playing. 2, just because he's our best big, and it's not even close. And but he made a lot of great shots. He made free throws. He pulled down a lot of great offensive boards. But the thing is what we're hoping for is consistency. We don't need David McCormack to score the 16 points a game that he scored. If he does, excellent. But if he can score even 8 points, I think you're feeling pretty good about March. If you can have a David McCormack, who's shooting 4 of 8 from the floor, or 3 of 7 from the floor with 2 of 2 from the line, I think you're with maybe like 8 to 10 rebounds. That's as much as we need from David McCormack.
Right. Yeah, I think, you're right about that. I think this was a good matchup with him. They kind of started Bishop on him because if you remember, Tre Mitchell didn't even start the game.
Yeah.
So Bishop was only 6'7", and I know he's athletic, but 6'7" is not going to stop a David McCormack caliber player in the post when he's 6'10", however big he is. And so I feel like that gave David confidence. And when he gets confidence, he plays really well. When he gets, drug out early in the first couple minutes and misses shots and stuff, that's when maybe this isn't a David type game. But this was clearly a David game from the jump. Why they didn't pass it to him when he had, Mitchell on his back in the last possessions, I have no clue.
And let's talk about that. That has been one of the hottest topics on KU Twitter this week is DeJuan Harris. You basically are on one side. You are either, I love DeJuan Harris. DeJuan Harris is easily the best point guard on the team. DeJuan Harris, he doesn't score super well, but he gives you enough, but he's an amazing defender. Or you're in the camp of DeJuan Harris gives you no offense, and what he gives you on defense doesn't make up for that lack of offense. And Joe Yesufu deserves more minutes, and you better hope that Remy Martin is healthy. So, Parker, what camp are you in?
I don't know.
Are you in between?
I go back and forth, I think.
I think us logical KU fans can be in between.
Yeah. I thought, the Twitter comparison of Rajon Rondo to DeJuan Harris is very, very on point. He can make some spectacular plays. He's a great passer sometimes. Obviously not Rondo caliber, but he does make plays at some point. And, we've seen the past, few games, he's really turned up defensively. That really wasn't the case with Texas. For some reason, I don't know if he was tired or if he had to play 40 minutes. And so he's worried about offensive production. I don't really know. During the games, I'm definitely on the side of take DeJuan out, put in Yesufu, that type. But I would feel like after the games, DeJuan, he is a steady player and somebody that, Bill has came out and said, I trust DeJuan Harris. And if we're gonna have a Hall of Fame coach, I think I'm gonna trust Bill on this one. It's kind of unfortunate though, because if Remy doesn't see minutes and Yesufu don't see the minutes, we could always look back and say, okay, what could have the season been if those guys did get more minutes and got into a rhythm as we got into the tournament.
And I think again, I'm in between. I'm a Celtics fan, and I specifically remember the days. It was towards the end of the Big Three when Rondo was starting to become more of a playmaker and less of a distributor. There were days where Celtic fans were like, "Oh my gosh, we got the best point guard in the East," and then there were days where, "Oh my gosh, we need to trade Rondo now," because he just there were games where there felt like games where he would shoot you out of games. He would just pull from three, miss tons of free throws, turn the ball over a lot. And then there were games where the dude could not miss. He made spectacular passes. He got tons of steals. And so that's why I definitely, he's a very polarizing player. But I feel like with Harris, he's he is very same, like kind of like in terms of if he's going to have a good game or bad, but he can be steady Eddie. And I don't think he's going to, I think he knows what his shot is. And I don't think he's going to shoot you out of games. Like he may take a lot of bad contested layups, but it's not like you're going to see him like pulling over guys. And so that's one of the things I do see in DeJuan Harris is that he's not going to lose you the game because of his decision making a lot. You know, there's definitely times where he makes bad decisions, like he never goes into bodies, never draws contact. Maybe he tries a floater over a 7-footer, you know, but that's not happening every possession. And I could see after the Dayton game, Bill Self getting pissed at Remy Martin for running to the wrong spot and feeling like Remy cost them the game and thinking, oh, well, DeJuan Harris probably wouldn't have done that.
Right.
I don't know if I agree with that logic.
And so where probably Harris should have thrown it in though, right? And then he turned it over. So I mean, I know they were trying to run the lob or whatever, but at that point when David has the dude on his back, he just needs to throw it in.
I think the answer is you have to start Remy Martin when he's healthy. If he's 100% healthy, if he is 100%, you must start Remy Martin and see how it goes. You know, you can't,
because I think at this point, our defense, I mean, if it was going to get better, it'd be better by now. It's not gonna, I mean, we may get a little bit better if we leave Harris in there, but at this point we're a team that's probably going to have to outscore teams in the tournament. So we need scoring in, and we need that pace and somebody who can shoot the ball and teams can't sag off of.
And you know, DeJuan Harris is a pretty good passer. Remy Martin is the team's best passer, and it's not even close. And that's the thing. Like, you know, what DeJuan gives you on defense, I think Remy Martin more than makes up for on the offensive end with his shooting, his passing ability, his court vision, and his fast break ability. So I think, I'm not saying you guarantee you start Remy Martin the entire rest of the season. I think that you, at least when he comes back, if he's 100%, you start Remy Martin for at least 3 to 4 games and see how it goes. See if the lineup that you have Remy Martin, the starting lineup, how are you playing when he's on the floor? How does the offense run? How does the defense look? And if not, let him be a spark off the bench. That's fine. If it doesn't work out, let him be a spark off the bench. But you cannot let your 1,900 point scorer, career point scorer, play less than 20 minutes in the tournament and hope to win. Sorry, that's how it is. And if you, I love, you know, I am someone who loves DeJuan Harris's heart and competitive nature, but for Kansas to win a national title, Remy Martin has to score at least 12 points per game, and maybe not even 12 points per game if he's distributing well, but he has to play at least 20 minutes per game. So that's my take on it.
I would agree, and hopefully, you know, we see that as we go down the stretch, and it's not just he's out for the season, or, you know, Bill doesn't trust him enough because he hasn't played enough, or he's so behind like Bobby was when he came back from his injury that, you know, he's unplayable. So, I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into it.
Yeah. And with that being said, let's talk about the Big 12 race. Kansas is still in the lead with an 8-2 record. They have a 1-game lead over Baylor, and Baylor is 1 game over Texas Tech. So you have 8-2, and then I believe you have 8-3 because Kansas had that game that was against TCU that was postponed. So basically KU has 1 game up on Baylor. That's the way you look at it. But let's look around the Big 12. TCU takes down Oklahoma State 77-73. I think TCU is a good team. I think they're a tournament team, and I think if they're an 8 or 9 seed, they could easily win their first game.
I want to see them versus us. Then I'll let you know on that.
Yeah, hopefully, and we play them twice in 3 days.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, we should have in that case, we should have a good game plan, you know. But I would trust that we would win those games, but I feel like there's probably going to be one that's a little bit of a squeaker. West Virginia takes down Iowa State 79-63 in the return of Taz Sherman. Is West Virginia, I mean, we go and play them in Morgantown here in a week or so. Is West Virginia a team that you're, what do you think of this West Virginia? I don't even know how to describe
I
them.
mean, they're not a great defensive team. They rely a lot on threes, and
Mhm.
if they're hitting, they're hitting. So, which we guard the 3-point line pretty well,
Mhm.
except if it's a 5 or a 4 shooting,
Yeah.
apparently. So, uh,
Or the shot's 3 feet long. Thank you, Tyler
Yeah.
Dorsey. Thank you, Tre Mitchell.
yeah, right. But yeah, I mean, it's always a tough game in Morgantown.
Mhm.
I'd like to see where they're at as far as momentum's bringing them this week.
Mhm.
After their games and see kind of where they're at before we go into Morgantown. Are they kind of riding momentum or they take a loss?
Mhm. Up next, Lane Stanberry's team, a Cinderella underdog team. The Oklahoma Sooners take down Parker's beloved Texas Tech Raiders 70-55. Red Raiders had no answer for the shots that OU was hitting. They were on
Yeah.
fire from
Mo
three.
Gibson.
Yeah. And the thing is, I don't even think Tanner Groves did a whole lot for him that
No, he
game.
didn't play much. It was their other big man. He played really well though. He got
Yeah.
a lot of rebounds and had some dunks and stuff. So
Yeah. I mean, and we'll talk about Oklahoma here in a bit. But is Texas Tech a fraud, or did they just fall victim to good shooting?
yeah, I mean, same as us. I think it was a game that they're supposed to win, that they came in and OU just shot well. And if you shoot well on any given night,
Mm-hmm.
you can beat anybody. So
Mm-hmm.
I think they're still up there. I think they're still a top 15 team.
Mm-hmm.
I
agree.
think they dropped to maybe a 4 seed or a 3 seed though in
Mhm.
bracketology. So that's something to keep your eye on.
I would hate
with
to
them.
play that team in the Sweet 16.
Right.
Imagine
Like that.
being a 2 seed who hasn't seen a defense like that all year, and
Right.
then in the Sweet 16 just having to deal with that. Like
Right.
Texas Tech is not gonna just I mean, who knows? Maybe they could see some guys catch fire. That's what Bryson Williams tends to do. I would not, and then to play, if you beat them, to play an Elite Eight game the next day, you're gonna be exhausted.
Yeah.
So I would not
Yeah.
like to see Texas Tech in my bracket. KU won't, but I would not like to see Texas Tech in my bracket if I were any of the 1s or 2s. 10 Baylor gets a get right game, takes down Kansas State in Bramlage Coliseum 75-60. Nigel Pack had 31 points. The rest of K-State had 29. When they pointed it out to Nigel Pack in the press conference, he said, "That hurts me deep inside." So, Parker, does Nigel Pack transfer after this year?
If they don't fire Bruce Weber, I think he's out.
Bruce
Unless
Weber's
he's loyal to
staying.
Bruce Weber. I don't know.
Weber is staying.
I don't know.
I could see Nigel Pack just staying because he's played there so long and maybe he thinks they'll just be better next year.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'd be interested to look at their roster, and they may not lose very much. I know they won't lose their big man. So
You know what kind of player he seems like? Kentucky. I could see that man in a Kentucky jersey all day.
Transferring somewhere big.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I could see him in a Kentucky jersey. Let's talk about the NCAA. Number 7, Duke gets upended by Virginia 69-68 on a game winner. It was beautiful, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how it went in, but it did. And it was just terrible defense down the stretch. I think they're supposed to switch 5, and the big man didn't go out and switch, or the little guard thought he was switching and didn't, left the dude wide open. And the dude looked like he got fouled too on the shot, and I don't know how he made it, but yeah, knocked down Duke at home.
And possibly my favorite game of the week. Arkansas takes down number 1 Auburn and their Jesse Newell loving fans 80-76. And there might be a new entry in the fraud rankings this week, Parker. Auburn, they made some shots down the stretch, but I don't know how their defense could have been any worse with someone as good as Walker Kessler. They gave up so many open threes to Arkansas, and they tried to brick every single one of them, but they made just enough to get past Auburn.
Yeah, it was a good game. It was a really fun game to watch. It was back and forth, and kind of one of the most insane court storms you'll ever see. I mean, the dude dunked it at the end to make a statement, and then swung his feet and hit the Auburn player in the head. And the Auburn player tried to fight him, but he couldn't find him because the court was already rushed in like 0.5 seconds.
And like the lights were going on and off, and like there was like fireworks coming out of the basket. They need to get rid of court storming. It's horrible. 14, Wisconsin takes down Michigan State in East Lansing, 70-62. The wheels are falling off for Tom Izzo.
Yep.
24, UConn in a shocker takes down the Fighting Shaka Smart Marquette, 80-72. What do you say about Shaka Smart? That's a peak Shaka Smart game. You get a couple good wins, and then you just let down against someone like UConn.
Yeah, Big East is pretty brutal.
Yeah, I agree. And another one of my favorite games of the week, SMU, Southern Methodist University, takes down Houston, number 6 in the nation, Mickey Mouse Conference, 85-83. And SMU tried to give the game away there too. They missed a lot of free throws down the stretch, but they were able to hold on at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was glad to see Houston finally lose. They do not deserve that 6th ranking. They haven't played a soul. They've lost the only 2 ranked teams they've played. It just doesn't make any kind of sense to have them that high. Especially with their best player being out.
They had no business being above teams like I think Duke. I'm not sure what I think about Duke right now, but I had no business being above Duke, Kansas, Baylor. No business whatsoever. No. Rutgers, who is apparently a big fan of upsetting teams at the top of the Big Ten, takes down number 16 Ohio State, 66-64. I mean, what do you say about Ohio State? They struggled at the beginning of the year. We knew they might not be as good as advertised. I mean, they have EJ Liddell, who's really great, but outside of that, I don't know what to say about Ohio State.
Yeah, I haven't watched them much.
Seton Hall takes down 25 Xavier, 73-71. I haven't watched either of these teams, but I do remember what was the guy name? Angel Delgado from Seton Hall pulling down 20 rebounds against the Devontae Graham Jayhawks. So I know that Seton Hall coach knows what he's doing. So and they were pretty good to start the year, if I remember. So I'm curious to see what they can do come tournament time.
Yeah, they beat Texas. So.
All right. Well, moving on to one of my favorite segments. We have a new edition of the fraud rankings. Coming in at number 10, moving down, which means good, we have Arizona at number 10 after wins versus UCLA and USC. They were both at home, so they had that distinct home court advantage. I'd still like to see them go on the road and win a game. You really haven't won a big game until you've gone on the road or on a neutral floor and won it. So I want to see him do that.
Right.
New entry, LSU. Parker, have you looked at LSU lately?
They've lost a lot, haven't they? They've lost a lot lately.
They went into the SEC Big 12 Challenge ranked, I believe, like 16. They lost to TCU. They lost to Ole Miss, lost to Vanderbilt. And then, so 3 straight L's. And then they beat Texas A&M. LSU, not good. Not good. If anyone is flexing that win over in their schedule, looking at you, Auburn, don't even. Baylor coming in at number 8 after getting the doors blown off of them by the Kansas Jayhawks. And, before I had at number 7, ACC teams not named Duke or Miami. I've decided to just put at number 7 the entire ACC. After North Carolina got destroyed, and then Duke took an L to Virginia, scoring 68 points on their home floor. And Miami is now fallen off the wagon. The entire ACC is a fraud. Number 6, we're sticking with Tennessee, no change. Number 5, WCC teams not named Gonzaga. and again, any win over Gonzaga, and they will be eradicated from the list. If they can beat Gonzaga, they will be eradicated from the list. Number 4, Ohio State. They lost to Rutgers. What can you say? Number 3, Auburn. New with the L at Arkansas and the close win at Georgia, a 6-win team. You had to know. You had to know that it was coming soon.
They were due.
Number 2.
I think we said that last time. They were due.
We said that. Number 2, Gonzaga. Playing a real conference, and you won't see these rankings again. Number 1, can you take a guess? Who's number 1? You know.
I can. Do you want me to?
Try.
The Cougs.
Houston is correct. The number 1 fraud team in the nation is Houston. They are a fraud. If they might get a nice draw in the tournament and win a couple games. If they're a 3 seed, they could absolutely lose to a 14. And I guarantee you, in one of my many in at least a few of my many brackets that I will make, they will lose to the 14 seed. All right. So that is it for the fraud rankings of the week. Let's get to Q&A. Let me pull it up on my phone. First question comes to us from @RP hate that this popped into my mind, but I think that turnover at the end of the first half might have been Pettiford's transfer papers at the end of the season, especially with Joe looking so good. Love for him to stay, but not many foreseeable minutes in the next year or two. Am I wrong?
I would say that Bill's so been high on Bobby for a long time, and just playing him this year as a freshman shows a lot. And him,
as a point
we're
guard.
not going to have Remy next. Yeah, and he said, Joe's not a point guard. So Bobby's going to play next year. He knows that, and I think all of our freshman class right now are all in. I know that there's been speculation all over the boards, like, oh, I think KJ is going to transfer because he's not getting enough minutes, or Zach's going to transfer because he's not getting enough minutes. And I don't believe any of that. You listen to the guys in the press room, you check out their socials. They're all posting KU stuff, and they're very supportive. I don't see any of our freshman class transferring outside of maybe Kyle Cuff.
Yeah, I could definitely see Kyle Cuff transferring, because the name is slipping me right now. Isaac McBride. Gives me big Isaac McBride vibes, because I think Harris is better than him. I think Yesufu's better than him. I think Pettiford is better than him. So, and we really only need 3 point guards. So as much as I love, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we also don't have a point guard in the 2021 class either. So, or 2022, I mean.
Yeah. And so, unless Kyle Cuff redshirts again, I don't know if you can redshirt again.
No.
Yeah, I struggle to see, unless KU loses a scholarship or something like that, because of the NCAA investigation. I struggle to see a lot of guys transferring off of this squad.
There's a lot of room next year for spots, so I don't see that.
How will the mismanagement of Remy Martin affect future transfer portal targets? Also, what are your general opinions about the situation? So we've talked about this quite a bit. I think the jury's still out on what happens with Remy Martin. I still think he could come back and be electric for March. I think he could come back and have a Malik Newman-esque March. So, I mean, I think it could still happen for Remy, but I mean, we'll just have to see. And in general, I think he actually is injured. There might have been something there with him himself, button heads. But I think if there was something there, it's gone now, and he's just trying to rest his knee and get 100% for March.
I'd agree. Yeah, nothing to really add there. I'm hopeful that Remy will be back and we can see him play finally.
Right. And that was from @SonofDaCosta. Also from @SonofDaCosta, how many minutes would Dajuan Harris receive in an ideal roster scenario? This is, I'm assuming, with Remy Martin fully healthy. Yeah. And I'll just say to that, however many minutes Dajuan Harris had when Remy Martin was starting. That's really, I don't even know what the number was. Yeah. I think his minutes were just fine.
25 to 30. Yeah.
I think his minutes were just fine at the beginning of the season. From at Jamie V1432, I know Self hates zone, but do you think he should consider going zone more, specifically against teams that dominate us inside, Texas and Tech, and shoot poorly from the three? Not suggesting go zone for the whole game, but just switch it up some. I mean, I think you have a fair point there, but Bill Self prides himself on his man defense, and typically what you see in high level basketball is teams will play zone for a little bit, or maybe for like 5 minutes, and then it'll get figured out. So I think you can play it in spurts, or maybe as a surprise, like in you're down under 2 minutes, you're up 3 or 4 and 2 minutes left, and then you just come out in zone, and then you like when you need a stop, you're just like, okay, do zone now. You know, I think that is where you need to play zone, but I think you need to always try man first, and then if that's not working, sure, play a zone to end the half if you're really giving up a lot of points.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the only time we've played zone this year, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, we may have played it a couple possessions, but really the only game we did was Kentucky, just because we could not stop them. So we had to try something different at that point. As far as trying it to versus bad shooting teams, you know, sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. I mean, just because they don't shoot a good percentage, it's probably because the other teams have been playing man against them. And then once you go zone and they're getting some open looks, that could really give them some confidence to start shooting. So,
right. At what point do you, from at the Tater Man, at what point do you think it's necessary that Bill Self comment on the officials, not for the outcome of the game? KU had plenty of missed opportunities, but you have an injured McCormack caused directly by officials allowing him to get hammered. That was a sorry excuse of an officiating crew tonight. I agree. They let a lot of stuff slide, but I know you can get fined for that stuff. And Bill Self is representing the university. So if it's egregious, like you're seeing players just get destroyed down the floor, or a call directly impacts the outcome of the game, like you have a really poor, like, I don't know, like travel that wasn't a travel, or a hideous charge call for a game-winning basket, that's when I think you can say something about it. But in general, I think it's the more sportsman thing to do to not talk about officials in the press conference. Even as a head coach, like I'll complain about the officials all day, but if you're the head coach, I think it's the sportsman thing to do to not blame officials.
Yeah. Bill Self rarely talks about officiating, if ever. You know, this game was weird. You know, I think we were texting and saying, you know, this game is so hard to watch because there's no rhythm in it, because there's a foul every single time down the court. Made it a little bit harder to watch, and it was more of a ref show than anything. But it was a physical game. They were letting them play at first, and if you let them do that, then you got to be on the whistle the whole game. So it can happen.
Yep. And last question from Nelsger9. Why is our best player a decoy at the end of the game?
It's a good question. I think maybe Bill Self was, I mean, since they were face guarding him, that he could be a good decoy. I would have had him set a back screen, because if his man's not helping off of him, I could have seen, him setting a screen for McCormack and McCormack posting. I think what they did worked. All they had to do is give it to.
All they had to do is get McCormack the ball. And like I was gonna say, like I agree, like he's our best player and everything. David McCormack was unguardable, and Bill Self is so good at scheming his post players open. That's why you kind of see some force feeding, and sometimes it doesn't go as planned. But Bill Self is really good at ensuring, if he wants a good shot, getting his posts in really low post position where they're put in at a really good spot to score. So, if David McCormack is having a good game, I think that's a fine play, especially if they're playing good defense on Ochai Agbaji. But in general, yes, Ochai Agbaji needs to have the ball. Like, even if he's the one who takes the ball up and passes it into David McCormack, I trust his, you see Stormy, #1 KU fan. Even if he's the one taking the ball up, I think you have to at least get him one touch.
Yeah, I don't know. It was kind of a weird game where he could never get into a rhythm. I mean, he made a few shots, but nothing crazy. And I mean, at the beginning of the season, we're always like, we're going to have 3 or 4 players that we can go to. It's just going to matter who has the hot hand. And it was David who had the hot hand. So I thought that, it was okay to use Och as a decoy if they're going to face guard him that hard, as long as you get David the ball, and we didn't. So,
right. All right. Thank you for those questions. Make sure to get them in. Really anytime during the week, and we'll read all of them on podcast. Oklahoma, they are 14-10 on the season, 4-7 in the conference. The Jayhawks play them at noon on CBS this Saturday. 3 strengths for Oklahoma: 2-point efficiency. They're shooting 58% on their twos, which is 5th nationally. That's something you can really come to expect from a team coached by Porter Moser. Creating havoc. They have a 21.6 defensive turnover percentage. They really try to turn teams over, so they're 42nd nationally. And they also guard the 3-point line pretty well. Opponents shooting 29% from 3, which is 30th nationally. And I'll add another another thing, they get back in transition really well. In terms of weaknesses, they do give the ball away a ton. So KU will definitely get a lot of steals this game. They'll steal a lot of extra possessions. They don't rebound the ball very well on the offensive end. They're more focused on getting back in transition after a missed shot. And they really struggled to get to the free throw line. They have a 27.5% free throw to field goal ratio, which is 259th in the nation nationally. They are coming off a really great game where they made a lot of shots against a good Tech defense. So they might have some positive momentum, but then again, you could see it as more of a regression to the mean this Saturday. But Parker, why don't you tell me about some of the impact players for Oklahoma?
Sorry, I was looking at the highlights and they were showing me a video. The impact players for OU. So you got Mo Gibson, who just went off versus Tech. He's averaging 12.8 points a game. You have Mr. Tanner Groves himself, who, could have torched KU last time, but just wasn't hitting. He averages just below him at 12.7. Elijah Harkless, the defensive madman, averages 9.6. And then the Jacob Groves is 22.7% from 3-point the line. So, he's firing up some things.
And I was just gonna say, Jacob Groves, he made 4 threes against Kansas in the NCAA tournament, something like that. I think we're figuring out now that was a complete fluke. That was just a complete statistical anomaly. That literally every shot that any Groves brother would throw up against Kansas, every single one was just in. And so I don't know. I think at Allen Fieldhouse, they'll struggle to make those shots. Overall, I do like Kansas in this game. I think they're going to score a lot of points. I think they're going to be angry because when you lose those games where you feel like you played well and you lose at the buzzer, it really pisses you off. And I think they're going to come into this game like they did the Baylor game, really angry, wanting to play well. I think they're going to make a lot of shots. I think David McCormack is going to have a decent game if he can stay healthy. I think Ochai Agbaji will probably have a pretty decent game. And I do think the Jayhawks work on the glass will help them a lot. And again, like we said, 2 of the keys for Kansas is offensive rebounding and stealing extra possessions. If they could do those 2 things well, they're gonna do pretty well. And those are 2 things that that Oklahoma does a very poor job at: limiting the offensive glass and giving the ball away. So because of this, I think the Jayhawks get a pretty hefty win. I think they take down the Sooners 80-65.
Talk to him, yeah, Mitch, wave him by, get him out of here.
Legendary.
I can't even remember, has OU beat KU in the past 10 years in Allen Fieldhouse? I don't think they have. I mean, Buddy Hield dropped 46 and they still couldn't.
They still lost, yeah.
So I don't see any way that OU comes in here and beats us. If they hit some shots, I don't think OU's a team you can say, oh, they're going to come in and drop 80 points or 75, which that's how teams have beat us. Kentucky went off, Texas went off there at the end to score a lot. Dayton, had a really good game. And I mean, we don't get beat in those grinded out games because we can just simply outscore teams. Teams can't really outscore us. I don't see OU coming in to outscore us. So I'm also going to take the Hawks 86-72, just because of the simple fact they don't have enough athletes to keep athletes, whatever you give it to keep up with us.
I agree. All right, let's move on to Pick'em. On the season, Parker is 12-6, Lane is 10-8. Our first game on the schedule, we had to pick, and I asked Parker who he thought was going to win before the game, and I put my pick in before the game. Number 3, Purdue at Michigan. I told Parker in the morning that Michigan was pulling the upset, and I was right. Michigan is up nearly 20 with 4 minutes to go. That's wild. As you know, Joe Lunardi said that Purdue losing would not take away their 1 seed. If they lose by 20, do they lose their 1 seed?
I just don't get the love for Purdue. They have some good players.
No
but their
defense.
Bench is terrible.
This is what happened in this game.
Is terrible. No defense. If they're not scoring inside, they struggle to score. If their wings aren't hitting threes, it's not a good sign. They just have as many losses as Kentucky and us. It's going to be 4 after this game, so I don't really get the absolute love, and they're still middle of the pack in the Big Ten as well.
Yeah, they have absolutely no defense, and that's why KU, they struggle to defend. But if we're going to get every shot we want against Purdue, we're beating Purdue. We've played against much better defenses than Purdue and scored 80 to 90 points. So it's what happens. When you don't play any defenses, there's going to be days where you don't make shots, and you're going to give the obligatory 70 to 80 points up to opposing teams. Next game, 24 UConn at 25 Xavier.
I chose UConn. The Big East has been tough for me just because all the teams seem like they're at the same exact level, so it's hard to pick who's actually going to win. Yeah,
I think UConn as well. Seton Hall at 15 Villanova. Does Villanova get another win here?
They're really good at home. I don't see them losing to Seton Hall unless Seton Hall starts jacking and making everything. So another Big East game where I think Nova may be the best team in the Big East still.
Yeah, I agree. I'll take Nova. Memphis at number 6 Houston. It's an interesting game. Memphis has a really talented group of players. Houston's a fraud. So do you see the potential for an upset here?
Yeah, I do. I'm going to take Memphis. Actually, they've played really well as of late, the hard teams they've played. I think it's a young group, so they get fired up to play big games, and the games that aren't so popular, they don't play well together and they lose. So, but this is one of those games that's going to be hyped up. It's at Houston. It's going to be on national television. I'm going to go with Memphis.
Yeah,
I'm going to win too.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I think it'll be a close game, but I think Houston coming back home is going to make the difference. So I'm going to take the Cougs. Indiana at Michigan State. Can Michigan State get back on track?
If you keep Michigan State, they're picking Michigan State, they're going to win eventually, right? So I'll just keep picking them.
Yeah, I'm going with Michigan State too. I think they get right here. Ohio State at Michigan, who is up 27 now against Purdue.
I'm going to go Michigan. They're going to be at home again. They're going to be riding some momentum. Ohio State's kind of down right now. I think Michigan guards are actually better than the Ohio State guards. So hopefully it comes down to that and Michigan winning.
And so for the next game, I'm taking Michigan as well, by the way. I think Michigan is going to be riding high after this game. They looked a lot better on offense, but again, that has a lot to do with Purdue's defense, but I don't think Ohio State is very good either. In this next game, I have, in air quotes, 22 St. Mary's at 2 Gonzaga. Who wins? And as a bonus pick'em, does Gonzaga win by 20 points?
I have Gonzaga not by 20 points. Because it seems like Gonzaga in the Cupcake Conference that they play in, and by the way, somebody was trying to argue with me on Twitter this week, that they have played, with the playing St. Mary's twice in the coming weeks, that they're going to play two top 25 teams or tier 1 teams. And
talking about San Francisco, I'm pretty sure San Francisco just lost to one of the garbage schools in the WCC. I can't even remember who it was. Let me look.
Yeah. But yeah, they're trying to argue, that they're actually gonna play some competition here with St. Mary's. So and I would say that they always have that one conference game each year. Usually it's BYU. But I think this year it's gonna be it may not be this game. It may be the one at St. Mary's, but it's going to be either this game or the game at St. Mary's, where it's going to be within 15 here. So they always have one relatively close game.
I like how we say, oh yeah, it's going to be a close game because it's 15 points. Like think about that. And also, I'm not allowing you to change your pick because I'm just kidding. You can change your pick. Santa Clara just beat St. Mary's.
Wow, of course
Santa Clara beat St. Mary's on Tuesday. Oh, it was Portland who beat San Francisco on Tuesday, 69-68.
This is abysmal. This is abysmal.
This conference is
Why would Gonzaga fans ever argue anything? I don't know.
This conference is so bad. I'm gonna take Gonzaga by 20 plus. I think the WC. I think
and
every
I can't
team... change
mine after they lost to San Francisco 49ers.
Go ahead and change it. They are winning by 20 plus. The WCC freaking sucks. They're horrible. That conference is garbage. And I can't believe any Jeff Goodman, John Rothstein, Seth Davis would think that conference is any better than it has been in the past. Wow. All right. UCLA, number 12 at 21 USC. I can't remember what the rivalry is called, but it's a rivalry game.
Yeah, I would take UCLA. I haven't been that impressed with USC as of late. They just really don't have great shooters on their team. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to take UCLA to bounce, get their step back.
But Parker, they definitely had great shooters on their team in a certain game. They played against a certain team from Lawrence, Kansas.
I want to hear about that, Lane.
Yeah, neither do I. I'm taking UCLA as well. I think UCLA is actually pretty good. I think they're the best team in the Pac-12. And I think they're actually pretty good, and I think they get right here. Interesting game. 20 Texas at number 10 Baylor. Texas is definitely going to be jacked up, and it's going to be in Waco. Who you got?
It'll be a really good game. I think the atmosphere will be good, just it being, that Texas matchup between Texas and Baylor. But I'm going to go with Baylor. I don't know. It'll be interesting. I think Baylor's physical enough to hang with Texas at times, and I think their guards are better.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna pick Texas. I think while Baylor's guards are better, I think Texas's bigs are way better, and I think that's where Baylor tends to struggle, is when you have bigs that are just way better than them. So I'm gonna take Texas for the upset, giving KU a little bit of room in the Big 12. West Virginia at Oklahoma State. Does Taz Sherman keep it up?
Yeah, I'm gonna go West Virginia. I don't know. I've been picking Oklahoma State a lot lately, and I feel like West Virginia's starting to get they're healthy again, and they're starting to get their groove back as well. So I'm gonna take West Virginia.
Right. I agree. I think West Virginia is kind of on a bit of a they have some better momentum going their way. I think Taz Sherman is the thing that makes that team go. And I think it might be close. I could definitely see Oklahoma State winning this game, especially since it's in Stillwater, but I'm going to go with West Virginia. TCU at number 9, Texas Tech.
I'm gonna keep picking the Red Raiders. I think they'll bounce back. Like
home.
I said, I haven't watched. Yeah, at home. I haven't watched TCU much yet, but from my understanding, I don't think they'll have enough firepower to keep up with Tech. And the return of one of their players, what was his name? Micah Peavy.
Yeah.
Micah Peavy transferred from Tech to TCU.
Oh, interesting.
So it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Kind of a Tristan and Aruna type.
Revenge game.
Yep.
All right. Well, K-State at Iowa State. Who you got, Parker?
I have Iowa State. I think they're going to play good enough defense at home to beat the Wildcats. Your beloved junkyard
This is
team
disrespectful.
Fires threes and plays no defense. And
this is disrespectful. Nigel Pack might outscore the entire Iowa State team on Saturday. K-State is going to destroy them.
Give me Nigel Pack under 15 points.
Under 15 points?
Unless Iowa State says we're going to play zone, then give me Nigel for 40.
That's what Iowa State does, though.
Not all game. Usually they go man.
Nigel Pack has unlimited range and will shoot above any defense that they throw at him. Nigel Pack scores 20 points. K-State gets the win.
I'm going to have to give you a Nigel Pack jersey.
Please don't. I don't even want that. That man is going to haunt me if he stays at K-State, and I hope he transfers. But that is all we have for this week's podcast. I hope you join us next week. I believe KU has a big Monday game against Oklahoma State, so the next podcast will likely be up on Sunday. I am Lane Stanberry.
I'm Parker Titus.
And let's get this W against the Sooners this Saturday.
Rock Chalk.